Hello, my dear friends. Today, we explored the inspirational life story of George Washington. In the quiet farmlands of Virginia, on February 22nd, 1732, a child was born who would one day shape the destiny of an entire nation. His name was George Washington, a boy with humble beginnings, raised on a plantation by a widowed mother. He was not born into wealth or power, nor was he gifted with a formal education like many other leaders of his time. But George Washington possessed qualities far more valuable: integrity, determination, humility, and unwavering courage. As a child, George was quiet and observant. He admired his older half-brother, Lawrence Washington, who had served in the British Navy and inspired George's early sense of duty and service. George's formal schooling ended at the age of 15, but he was hungry to learn. He studied mathematics, surveying, and geography, skills that would prove invaluable later in life. When Lawrence became ill and passed away, George took his first step into adulthood by managing the family estate at Mount Vernon. He learned firsthand the difficulties of leadership and responsibility. In these early years, Washington's legendary honesty and self-discipline began to shine. At the age of 20, George Washington was appointed as a major in the Virginia militia. He was tasked with a mission that would change his life, delivering a message to the French, warning them to leave British-claimed territories. The journey was treacherous. He faced freezing temperatures, dangerous terrain, and hostile encounters. Yet Washington succeeded, earning his first taste of respect and recognition. Soon after, he was drawn into the French and Indian War, where he learned the brutal realities of battle. He experienced both defeat and victory. Despite setbacks, his bravery and leadership caught the attention of British officers and colonial leaders. He became known not for arrogance, but for resilience, integrity, and humility in both success and failure. As the colonies began to chafe under British rule, discontent grew. The seeds of revolution were being sown, but few knew how to lead such a colossal movement. When war finally broke out in 1775, the Continental Congress knew exactly who they needed: George Washington. When he was appointed Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army, Washington did not accept the role with joy or pride. Instead, he humbly said, "I do not think myself equal to the command I am honored with." Yet, he took the burden on his shoulders, driven not by ambition, but by duty. The American Revolution was a seemingly impossible task. His army was poorly trained, ill-equipped, and constantly outnumbered. Defeat seemed inevitable, but Washington refused to give up. The darkest days of the Revolution came during the brutal winter of 1777 at Valley Forge. Soldiers were starving, freezing, and losing hope. Washington walked among his men, sharing their suffering, offering words of encouragement, and doing everything in his power to lift their spirits. He became not just a general, but a symbol of hope. His unwavering belief in the cause inspired his troops to endure. One of the most remarkable moments came on Christmas night in 1776. Washington led a daring crossing of the icy Delaware River, surprising the Hessian forces at Trenton and winning a vital victory. It was a turning point in the war, proof that courage and determination could triumph against overwhelming odds. Years of hardship followed, but finally, with the help of French allies and Washington's masterful leadership, the war ended in 1781 with the surrender of British forces at Yorktown. The colonies had won their freedom. Yet, perhaps the most astonishing part of George Washington's story came after the war. With power in his hands, he did something few leaders in history have ever done. He stepped down. Washington returned to Mount Vernon, content to live as a private citizen. He believed that the true test of leadership was knowing when to walk away. His humility and commitment to democracy shocked the world. Even King George III of Britain, when told that Washington would relinquish power, famously said, "If he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." But destiny was not finished with George Washington. In 1789, he was unanimously elected the first President of the United States. He did not seek power or glory. He accepted the presidency because his country needed him once again. As president, Washington set the foundation for a fledgling nation. He established traditions, guided the creation of the Constitution, and refused to become a king, even when many urged him to. He served 2 terms, then stepped down, establishing the precedent of peaceful transition of power, a defining principle of American democracy. George Washington's life was not about conquest or personal ambition. It was about service, sacrifice, and unwavering integrity. He taught the world that the strongest leaders are those who put their country before themselves, who serve not for glory, but for the greater good. He showed that character matters more than privilege, that perseverance can overcome insurmountable challenges, and that true greatness is measured by humility and honor. After his presidency, George Washington returned once more to Mount Vernon. He lived quietly, tending to his farm, until his passing in December 1799. His death was mourned not just in America, but around the world. Napoleon ordered 10 days of mourning in France. Britain's navy lowered its flags. The world recognized that a giant had passed, not just a leader of men, but a leader of principles. To this day, George Washington stands as a beacon of inspiration. He reminds us that you don't need to be born into greatness to achieve it. You need discipline, integrity, courage, and a heart willing to serve others. In the annals of history, many have held power, but few have wielded it with such grace, humility, and vision as George Washington. His journey from a young Virginian surveyor to the father of a nation is a timeless reminder that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things, not through selfish ambition, but through selfless service. George Washington's story inspires each of us to lead with courage, to persevere in the face of adversity, and to remain humble in victory. He built not just a nation, but an example, one that will forever guide those who dare to dream, who dare to serve, and who dare to build something greater than themselves. Associate yourself with men of good quality if you esteem your own reputation. For 'tis better to be alone than in bad company. George Washington